the timestamp that changed everything. She thought it was just another ordinary Thursday. The sky over Chicago hung gray and unbothered, the kind of color that makes people rush through their mornings. Simone Patterson had always loved that color. It made her feel productive, purposeful. She liked routines, the calm certainty of schedules, the 7 a.m. coffee, the 8 a.m. Dubai kiss, the 9 a.m. meeting. Predictability was safety. That morning started no different, except of course for the small blinking red light she would later see. Simone locked the townhouse door behind her, balancing her briefcase, phone, and travel mug like an acrobat. Derek stood by the kitchen counter, still in his gray sweatshirt, hair messy, eyes half awake. "You're running late," he teased, reaching for her coffee. She smiled. "You're the reason," she said, brushing her lips against his cheek. The smell of his cologne, clean, subtle, wrapped around her like familiarity itself. He grinned, that lazy grin she'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. "Good luck with the meeting, babe." She nodded, slid on her heels, and left. Outside, the wind bit at her face. The city hummed, buses wheezing, horns complaining, people living. Simone slipped into her car, turned up the heat, and began her drive downtown, radio low, mind half on her presentation, half on the dinner she'd promised to cook that night. She didn't know the universe was already rearranging her life in real time. By 9:30 a.m., she was parked outside a cafe, reading an email that made her groan. Meeting postponed to next week. Great! She was overdressed for nothing. She texted Derek a quick, "Free now, might run errands." He didn't reply. She didn't think twice. Simone sipped her coffee and scrolled through her phone out of habit, not suspicion. A notification popped up. Nanny Cam live feed. Active. The app opened automatically. Muscle memory. She had installed it last year when she was working late nights just to keep an eye on their rescue dog, Milo. She hadn't checked it in weeks, but now, sitting bored in the car, she tapped the feed. Static. Then clarity. The living room appeared first, the neat couch, the framed wedding photo, the quiet. Then she swiped to the bedroom view. A tiny red dot blinked in the corner of the screen, and on the bottom, 9:47 a.m. Her pulse ticked. She had left at 8:30. Derek should have been at his gym by now. He always left by 9. Simone frowned, leaning closer to the screen. The bedroom door opened. At first, it was just him. He walked in casually, scrolling through his phone, same sweatshirt, same grin she'd kissed an hour ago. Her lips still remembered the warmth of that goodbye. He grinned, that lazy grin she'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. "Good luck with the meeting, babe." She nodded, slid on her heels, and left. Outside, the wind bit at her face. The city hummed, buses wheezing, horns complaining, people living. Simone slipped into her car, turned up the heat, and began her drive downtown, radio low, mind half on her presentation, half on the dinner she'd promised to cook that night. She didn't know the universe was already rearranging her life in real time. By 9:30 a.m., she was parked outside a cafe reading an email that made her groan. Meeting postponed to next week. Great! She was overdressed for nothing. She texted Derek a quick, "Free now, might run errands." He didn't reply. She didn't think twice. Simone sipped her coffee and scrolled through her phone out of habit, not suspicion. A notification popped up. Nanny Cam live feed. Active. The app opened automatically. Muscle memory. She had installed it last year when she was working late nights just to keep an eye on their rescue dog, Milo. She hadn't checked it in weeks, but now, sitting bored in the car, she tapped the feed. Static. Then clarity. The living room appeared first. The neat couch, the framed wedding photo, the quiet. Then she swiped to the bedroom view. A tiny red dot blinked in the corner of the screen, and on the bottom, 9:47 a.m. Her pulse ticked. She had left at 8:30. Derek should have been at his gym by now. He always left by 9. Simone frowned, leaning closer to the screen. The bedroom door opened. At first, it was just him. He walked in casually, scrolling through his phone, same sweatshirt, same grin she'd kissed an hour ago. Her lips still remembered the warmth of that goodbye. But then someone followed. A woman. Long hair, bright red coat, laughing. Simone froze. It felt like a glitch in time, her brain refusing to process what her eyes were seeing. The woman brushed Derek's shoulder as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Simone's hand trembled. She lowered the phone, blinked, then raised it again. Still there,
still laughing. Her heartbeat pounded against her ribs. Who was she? The nanny cam feed flickered, adjusting focus. Derek turned toward the bed. The red-haired woman set down her purse, her side of the bed, and leaned against the dresser. Simone's breath hitched. It wasn't the action. It was the comfort, the ease, the casual intimacy of it. Derek wasn't nervous, wasn't startled. He knew she was there. He wanted her there. A sudden wave of nausea rolled through Simone. She almost dropped her phone. Her mind scrambled for excuses. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe he's selling something. Maybe... But none of those excuses explained the way he smiled at her. That soft, familiar smile, the one Simone had seen 1,000 mornings before, was now a weapon. In that single second, Simone's marriage ended, and her story of revenge began. She shut the phone off and sat in stunned silence. The cafe noise around her dissolved. All she could hear was the echo of that faint laughter from the feed. The world outside kept moving, cars passing, people laughing, but inside Simone's chest, everything had gone still. Her hands shook as she placed the coffee cup down. The lid rattled. She pressed her palms together, breathing hard. No, there has to be an explanation. But then she remembered something. The lipstick smudge she had noticed on one of Derek's mugs last week. He had brushed it off as hers. She believed him. The late nights at the gym, the extra showers, the subtle scent of perfume she didn't own. Little pieces started snapping into place, forming a picture she never wanted to see. Her heart cracked quietly. She turned the feed back on. The room was empty now. Only the faint indent on the comforter remained, proof that someone had been there. Simone watched the screen like it could somehow give her the truth she craved. But truth didn't come easy. It came cruel, slow, and undeniable. For the rest of that day, Simone drifted like a ghost. She walked through stores, picked up random things, forgot what she needed. Every beep of her phone made her chest tighten. When Derek finally texted, it was 12:42 p.m. Busy morning, heading out. Need anything? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She typed, no, all good. Deleted that too. Typed, who was the woman? Deleted that too. Instead, she wrote, dinner at home? I'll cook. Her thumb hesitated before sending. She needed him calm, predictable. Because if there was one thing Simone Patterson had learned from the nanny cam, it was that the person who betrays you always underestimates you. And she planned to use that. The rest of the day stretched long and cruel. She replayed the feed in her head 100 times, each frame carving deeper into her sanity. By the time the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Simone had made up her mind. She wasn't confronting him. Not yet. She wanted proof. Not just pixels. Something tangible. That night, she arrived home early. The house smelled of detergent and candle wax. Derek's car wasn't in the driveway yet. She set her purse down quietly, her heart racing as she stared at the bedroom door, the door she had seen on her phone that morning. She stepped closer. The room looked normal. Bed made, pillows aligned, blue comforter smooth. But the air felt different, like betrayal had its own scent. She walked to the nanny cam, just a small device hidden among books on the shelf. She unplugged it, opened the back panel, and removed the micro SD card. Her fingers tightened around it. Cold, sharp plastic, the evidence of her unraveling world. The truth wasn't just caught on camera, it was now in her hands. When Derek came home, he greeted her with a kiss, the same gentle routine. She smiled back, perfectly rehearsed. They ate dinner. Chicken, roasted vegetables, a bottle of wine. She asked him about his day. He complained about clients. She asked hers about, she said, uneventful. Every word between them was an act, a delicate theater. And Simone, she'd just become a master performer. Later, while Derek showered, she slipped the SD card into her laptop. Her hands were steady now, cold with resolve. Folders opened, timestamps appeared. She clicked on 9:47 a.m. her screen filled with movement. And there it was again, the door, the woman, the laugh. She pressed pause before it went further. Her reflection stared back at her on the laptop screen, eyes red, lips trembling, a stranger wearing her face. This was it, the undeniable. No more excuses, no more maybes. She clicked Save As and filed the file, Proof. Then she backed it up to her phone, her email, a flash drive. 1 betrayal, 3 backups. She didn't know what she'd do with it yet, but she knew one thing. It wasn't going to stay just a video. It was going to become her weapon. That night, she lay beside Derek listening to his steady breathing. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. Every exhale he took sounded like a lie.
Every movement reminded her that she was sleeping beside a stranger wearing the face of her husband. Simone didn't cry. She didn't scream. She planned. She thought about his passwords, his accounts, his work schedule. She remembered his weaknesses, his ego, his fear of exposure, his obsession with reputation. She cataloged every detail. If betrayal was war, she was already strategizing. Some people break when they're betrayed. Simone began to build. Morning came with sunlight she didn't deserve. Derek kissed her goodbye like nothing had changed. "Love you," he said, grabbing his keys. She looked him in the eye. "Love you too." The lie tasted metallic on her tongue. When the door closed, she sat at the table, opened her laptop, and played the footage again, forcing herself to watch every second, every betrayal, every smirk. 23 minutes later, she wasn't broken. She was something sharper. Because once you've seen the truth, you can't unsee it. And Simone Patterson wasn't going to be another woman crying in the dark. She was going to rewrite the story her way. The tears were gone. The pain was dull. The plan was ready to begin.
Arc 2, the footage that shattered her. The next morning arrived like an intruder. Cold light spilled through the blinds, slicing across Simone's face. For the first time in years, she didn't reach for her husband's side of the bed. She didn't even glance at it. The space beside her was still warm from where Derek had slept, and that warmth felt disgusting, like the residue of something spoiled. She sat up slowly, her body heavy, but her mind awake. The image of the woman in the red dress had replayed in her dreams, taunting her, laughter echoing, skin against skin, the rhythm of betrayal stitched into her subconscious. Simone swung her legs off the bed and stared at the blue comforter. Their bed, the same one she had picked last spring after a fight about colors. He wanted gray, she insisted on blue. They compromised, laughed, kissed in a store aisle. She remembered that day so vividly it hurt. Now, that same comforter was part of a crime scene she could never report. She wasn't just betrayed, she was erased from her own life. Simone walked to the kitchen, made coffee, and opened her laptop. The file stared back at her. Proof.mp4. She hovered the mouse over it, debating whether to delete it or watch it again. But curiosity is cruel. It doesn't heal. It digs deeper. She clicked play. At first, she thought, maybe it's nothing. Maybe she imagined it. Maybe the angle made it worse than it was. But then the woman appeared. Long brown hair, tight red dress, laughter that sounded like it belonged to someone without shame. The woman's hand reached for Derek's. He didn't hesitate. He let her pull him toward the bed. Their bed. Simone's chest constricted. She could feel her pulse at her throat. Every inch of that room was familiar. The framed wedding photo on the nightstand, the candle she lit every Sunday, the book she left open beside her pillow. And yet, watching it now, it all felt foreign, contaminated. The camera captured everything. The whispers, the stolen looks, the kind of intimacy that only comes from repetition. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was routine. Simone's heart clenched. Her hand trembled. She reached for her water glass but missed, spilling it across the counter. The sound startled her. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. She watched her husband, the man who once promised her forever, betray her in the home they built together. For 23 minutes, she sat motionless, forced to witness her world burn. Every kiss, every whisper, every touch, each one felt like a blade carving away the woman she thought she was. When the video ended, there was only silence. Simone stared at the dark screen, her reflection faintly visible. She looked like someone else entirely. Hollow eyes, pale skin, lips pressed tight. Then the first tear fell, and then another, until her vision blurred completely. She pressed her palms to her face, gasping, choking on air that suddenly felt too thick. It wasn't crying. It was drowning. He had taken her trust, her peace, and her pride, but not her will.
The sobs came in waves, breaking her composure, stealing her breath, but like all storms, they passed. And when they did, she was eerily calm. Her eyes were red, her body weak, but inside her something new stirred, a quiet, precise kind of rage. Simone stood, wiped her face, and walked to the mirror. The woman staring back at her was no longer naive. She wasn't desperate. She was dangerous. She whispered to herself, "No more tears." And from that moment, the crying stopped and the planning began. She plugged in her laptop again and opened the footage folder. She clipped parts of the video, zoomed in on faces, timestamps, the exact gestures. She created duplicates, one labeled insurance, one labeled court, one labeled revenge. Every version saved, every file hidden in a new drive. Her fingers moved fast, efficient, focused. Simone Patterson had always been a perfectionist, the kind of woman who made lists, met deadlines, color-coded her life. Now she was applying that same discipline to vengeance. The first step was information. Who was the woman? She replayed the first few seconds again and again until she caught something, a glimpse of a purse tag, blurred letters that looked like Luxa Boutique. Simone's brain clicked into motion. That boutique was downtown. She'd shopped there once, even complimented the staff. She zoomed in further, enhancing the image until she caught a part of a reflection in the mirror, a phone case. Custom. Name printed in gold. Lydia. Her heart stopped for half a beat. Lydia. She knew that name. Her stomach twisted. Lydia worked at Derek's firm. She'd seen her once at a Christmas party, tall, confident, the kind of woman who made eye contact like it was a challenge. Simone remembered the way Derek had laughed at her joke that night, too easily, too long. Now she understood why. The betrayal wasn't random. It was calculated. Simone's phone buzzed. A text from Derek. "Running late tonight. Don't wait up." Her lips curled into a bitter smile. Perfect. She spent the next hour stalking Lydia online. Instagram, LinkedIn, every social platform was a map of her arrogance, smiling at corporate events, gym selfies, brunch photos captioned #unstoppable. Her eyes traced every image, memorizing details. She wasn't jealous. She was collecting intel. She learned Lydia was single, recently divorced, posted motivational quotes about living authentically. The irony was almost funny. She noted the gym location and the tags, the frequent bar check-ins, the patterns. Her husband's mistress was predictable, and predictable people were easy to destroy. The following days blurred into routine again, but it wasn't routine anymore. It was surveillance. Simone acted normal, smiled, cooked, laughed at Derek's jokes. Every time he leaned in to kiss her, she imagined his betrayal. Every time he touched her, she fought the urge to flinch. At night, she'd excuse herself early, pretending to be tired. But she wasn't resting. She was researching. She traced Lydia's online schedule. She found where she shopped, the streets she jogged on, the time she left her apartment. It wasn't obsession. It was control. Because control was the one thing Derek had stolen, and she was taking it back. One evening, while Derek was in the shower, Simone unlocked his phone. He was careless, still using her birthday as a passcode. She scrolled through messages. There it was. Lydia. Kiss. She opened the thread. Photos. Inside jokes. Voice notes. The same tone of intimacy he once reserved for her. Her hand trembled again, but not from pain, from resolute. She forwarded the entire chat to her own email, quietly deleting traces from his device. Then she plugged in his phone and downloaded every backup file. If he thought she was blind, he was about to learn how precise her vision really was. He hid secrets. She collected evidence. Days passed. The house became a theater of lies, but Simone played her role flawlessly. When Derek kissed her forehead, she smiled. When he lied about corporate dinners, she nodded. Inside, she was silent fire. She started planning phase 2. If Lydia thought she'd stolen a husband, she was wrong. She'd stolen a ticking bomb. Simone began leaving subtle traces, emails forwarded from anonymous accounts, hotel receipts sent to Derek's office, tiny seeds of suspicion planted in their circle. Soon, whispers began spreading through Derek's workplace. Lydia became cautious. Derek became tense. And Simone? She watched from the sidelines, sipping her coffee, waiting for the cracks to widen. Then came the night that changed everything. Simone received a message on her phone. A video. No sender name. She opened it, expecting spam, but froze. It was another recording from the nanny cam. Timestamp, 2 days ago. She hadn't left it on, but somehow it had recorded. In the footage, Derek was pacing in the bedroom, phone pressed to his ear. "She's acting weird," he was saying. "I think she knows." A pause, then Lydia's voice on speaker. "You said she was clueless. What if she finds out?" Derek's reply was calm. Too calm. "She won't. She's too trusting. Always has been." Simone's fingers dug into her desk. He smirked in the recording, glancing toward the camera without knowing it was still on. The irony nearly made her laugh. He had cheated in front of it once, and now the same camera was capturing his downfall. He forgot the one rule of secrets. Cameras don't forgive. By the time Derek came home that night, Simone had already set her plan into motion. Dinner was ready. Candles lit, soft music playing. Everything perfect. He walked in, looking exhausted. "Wow," he said, smiling. "You're spoiling me." She smiled back. Always. They ate, talked, laughed like strangers pretending to be a couple. When dessert came, she poured him another glass of wine. He drank, oblivious. And then, calmly she stood. "I have something to show you," she said. Derek looked up, confused. Simone turned her laptop toward him. The video began to play. His face drained of color. He tried to speak, but the words never came. The betrayal he thought was hidden was now playing right in front of him, timestamp and all. Simone watched his every expression, the shock, the denial, the fear. When the screen went black, she closed the laptop slowly. "Do you want to explain, or should I just keep watching?" Derek's voice cracked. "Simone, it's not what it looks like." She laughed, a hollow, quiet laugh. "You need a new line." He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. Her voice was calm. "You forgot something, Derek. The nanny cam doesn't stop recording just because you want it to." He sat in silence, guilt dripping off him like sweat. Simone picked up her wine glass, swirling it idly. "For 7 years, I believed in us. You smiled, you lied, and I built my life around that smile. But today," she leaned forward, "today I build something new. Without you." Derek's eyes widened. "You're leaving?" She smirked. "Leaving? No, Derek. You are." She pulled a small envelope from her drawer and dropped it on the table. Inside, copies of the video, chat logs, hotel receipts, all neatly printed. "Consider it a farewell gift."
She said. He opened his mouth, but she was already walking away. He thought she'd break. She became the storm. Simone didn't look back as she left the room. The sound of Derek calling her name echoed behind her, but it didn't reach her anymore. For the first time in weeks, her chest felt light. She wasn't the victim. She was the witness and the judge. She took Milo's leash, stepped outside into the cold night air, and breathed deeply. The city lights shimmered like 1,000 tiny cameras, each one watching, recording. Simone smiled. She understood now. Some betrayals destroy you, others rebuild you. And hers? It was just getting started.
Arc 3. The Woman in Red. When the crying stopped, the silence became louder than the betrayal itself. Simone sat on the couch, her eyes raw and swollen, the glow from the nanny cam footage still flickering across her face. The video had ended 20 minutes ago, but she hadn't moved. Her body felt like it belonged to someone else, a hollow vessel filled with noise and numbness at once. The city outside hummed with its usual rhythm, traffic, laughter, the distant bark of a dog. But inside the house, everything felt foreign. Even the air was different, heavier, as if it too had witnessed what she saw. She picked up her phone again, her thumb hovering over the video thumbnail. She shouldn't watch it again, she knew that. But pain has its own kind of gravity, pulling you back, again and again, until the truth buries every last piece of denial. She pressed play. This time she didn't watch them, she watched the details. The time in the corner, 9:47 a.m. The way Derek smiled when he thought no one was watching. That sly, easy grin that once melted her heart. The woman's perfume seemed to bleed through the screen. She imagined it, sweet and cheap, like something that lingered too long. She wasn't watching the betrayal anymore. She was studying the enemy. Simone scrubbed backward through the footage, then forward, pause, rewind again. The woman laughed, a soft, familiar laugh. Something clicked in Simone's head. The sound wasn't strange. She'd heard it before. Somewhere close. She turned the volume higher. The woman said something, muffled, but the tone, the pitch, Simone knew it. Her stomach clenched as the realization crawled up her spine. No, it couldn't be. She froze the frame, zoomed in slightly. The woman's side profile, long brown hair falling over a shoulder. Her brain replayed moments from the last few weeks, the visits, the small talk, the friendliness that seemed too casual. The nanny. The woman in red wasn't a stranger. She was already inside their home. Her pulse spiked, her hands trembling as she clicked back through older footage. A week before, same woman. 2 weeks, same laugh, same touch. A month back, the same betrayal, over and over. She gasped, covering her mouth as nausea twisted through her. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern, a ritual. Derek had been bringing her in while Simone worked, lying through smiles, saying, "You work too hard, babe. Let me handle the house today." Her throat burned as she realized every handled chore, every early day off, had been another chance for him to feed his secret. Simone shut the laptop, stood up and stumbled toward the bathroom. Her reflection in the mirror didn't look like her anymore. The woman staring back had hollow eyes and a calmness that frightened her. She whispered to her reflection, "You trusted him with everything." A pause, then quieter. "Now, he'll pay for everything." She wasn't breaking anymore. She was rebuilding, piece by piece, into something unrecognizable. Simone sat at the edge of the tub, breathing slowly. The air smelled of betrayal and soap. She could still see that red dress burned behind her eyelids, taunting her like a flag planted in her own territory. She picked up her phone and scrolled to Derek's messages. Derek, "Hey babe, what do you want for dinner? Love you." She stared for a long moment, her lips curving into something that wasn't quite a smile. She typed back, "Simone, anything's fine. Love you too." Her thumb hovered over send for a beat, and then she pressed it. The irony was sharp enough to taste. As the message whooshed away, she caught her reflection in the black screen, eyes cold, jaw set, a faint trace of mascara smudged like war paint. He thought she was broken, but she was calculating. That night, she didn't cry. She didn't sleep either. Instead, she opened her laptop and pulled up the Nanny Cam dashboard again, this time digging deeper, past the live feed. The system had backups, every clip stored securely in cloud archives. Derek didn't even know that feature existed. She began to download every single video, every date, every time, every proof. The progress bar crawled slowly, 2%, 5%, 10%, but her heart rate stayed steady. Each file was another nail in the coffin of the man she thought she married. When it finally hit 100%, she saved the money USB drive and slipped it into a small jewelry box, the one Derek gave her on their 3rd anniversary. Inside, instead of a necklace, lay his sins, the perfect place to hide betrayal, inside a memory he'd never question. She closed the lid gently, almost lovingly. The next morning, she dressed as if nothing had happened. Hair tied back neatly, light makeup, pale blue blouse, the color of calm. Derek came downstairs, humming, wearing that same easy charm that used to make her weak. "Morning, babe," he said, kissing her cheek. "You okay? You look tired." Simone forced a small laugh. "Didn't sleep much. Work stuff." He nodded, distractedly scrolling through his phone. The audacity of it, the normalcy, almost made her laugh out loud. He didn't realize he was having breakfast with his own executioner. She poured him coffee, her movement smooth, controlled. Every word, every smile now had purpose. She watched him drink, talk, exist, as if he hadn't shattered her yesterday. When he left for work, she followed him to the door, kissed him lightly, and whispered, "Drive safe." The door closed. Her smile vanished instantly. Simone turned back toward the kitchen, eyes fixed on the spot where he'd stood. The space felt contaminated. She picked up her phone, dialed a number, and when the line clicked, her voice was steady. "Hi, I need a private investigator." She didn't just want answers anymore. She wanted evidence that could destroy him. The man on the other end asked for details. Simone hesitated, choosing her words carefully.
"I think my husband is cheating," she said softly. "And I have proof. I just need help finding out who she really is." Because deep down, Simone knew something wasn't adding up. If the woman was the nanny, why hadn't she noticed? Why the secrecy, the red dress, the timing? The investigator promised discretion. They agreed to meet that afternoon. Simone hung up, the adrenaline now a steady current beneath her skin. She wasn't sure what scared her more, what she'd find, or how calm she felt chasing it. The shock was fading, and in its place, a dangerous kind of clarity was being born. Hours later, she sat in her car outside a small cafe waiting. The investigator, a woman named Harper, arrived, mid-40s, sharp eyes, the kind of presence that filled the room without sound. Simone told her everything, the footage, the timestamps, the woman in red. Harper listened, occasionally jotting notes. When Simone mentioned the nanny, Harper's brow furrowed. "Do you have her name?" "Clara," Simone replied. "Clara Jensen." Harper nodded slowly. "Let me look into her. I'll get back to you in 24 hours. Simone exhaled, the faintest flicker of relief surfacing. But underneath it all, something else was stirring. A hunger for justice that was quickly evolving into something darker. She thought she wanted closure, but what she really wanted was control. That night, when Derek came home, he acted normal again. Dinner, laughter, fake affection. Simone played her part flawlessly. She even laughed at his stories. But when he kissed her goodnight, she turned her head slightly, just enough to make him notice, but not enough to question. She lay in bed later that night, staring at the ceiling, the same ceiling that had witnessed everything she couldn't unsee. Her mind whispered, over and over, like a pulse, "You trusted him. You trusted her." The repetition didn't hurt anymore. It fueled her. She wasn't the same woman who cried over betrayal. She was the woman writing the next chapter of his downfall.
Arc 4, The Silent Preparation. The morning light crept through the blinds, soft and harmless, but nothing felt harmless anymore. Simone stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair with slow, deliberate strokes. Her face looked calm, too calm. She dialed her office, voice steady. "Hey, I'm not feeling well today. I'll work from home." Her boss hesitated, surprised. Simone never called in sick, but he agreed. She hung up before guilt could even blink. Across the hall, Derek's footsteps echoed, humming, whistling, the same morning routine that once filled their home with warmth. Now, every sound was a taunt. He leaned down to kiss her forehead before leaving, the same habitual gesture that had once meant love. Now, it was ritual, pretend, performance. She smiled sweetly, as if nothing inside her had changed. "Drive safe, okay?" He smiled back. "Always do." The door clicked shut. His car engine roared to life. Simone waited by the window, watching until the red taillights vanished down the street. Only then did she move. The moment his car disappeared, her mask came off. She walked to the living room, pulled her laptop from the drawer, and sat down. The screen glowed, cold, sterile, waiting. The Nanny Cam app opened again. This time she didn't hesitate. One by one, she began to download every recording, every quiet betrayal, every stolen laugh, every frame of deceit. 6 months. That's how long it had been happening. Half a year of lies hidden behind goodnight kisses. Her fingers moved with mechanical precision. Download, save, copy, backup, encrypt. She made 2 USB drives, one labeled work, another bank. Both identical, both poison. She wasn't collecting memories anymore. She was building ammunition. When the downloads finished, she sat back, staring at the file names lined up neatly like evidence in a courtroom. Each timestamp was a wound, but together they told a story, and Simone was ready to be the author of its ending. Then curiosity turned to compulsion. She opened Derek's email account. The password came easy, her birthday. The irony stung. She started searching, dozens of folders, receipts, work files, schedules. But one caught her eye, a hidden folder labeled Projects. Her pulse slowed. The name was too careful, too ordinary to be innocent. She clicked. Inside were messages, hundreds of them. The first line burned through her chest. "Last night was perfect.
Can't wait to see you again. I hate sneaking around, but it makes it even better." She scrolled further. More words, more filth. "I can't believe how long I've done this. I'll tell her soon, I promise." "You're worth the risk." Amber. Amber. That was her name. The woman in red had a name now, and suddenly she could see her even clearer. She finally knew the name of the woman who ruined everything, and it sounded like gasoline on her tongue. Simone leaned back in her chair, staring at the screen. The words blurred as her chest tightened. Then something inside her cracked, not from sadness, but from clarity. So it wasn't the nanny after all. He hadn't just cheated with convenience. He'd chosen this woman, planned it, promised her a future. She opened one message, dated just last week. "Amber, you said you'd talk to her before the end of the month. I'm tired of hiding." "Derek, I will, I swear. Just need things lined up. She won't see it coming." Simone laughed softly. The kind of laugh that no longer belonged to a woman in pain, but one standing at the edge of something darker. She whispered to herself, "Oh, she won't see it coming." Her reflection in the laptop screen smiled back, cold, deliberate. She murmured, he was planning to leave her, but she'd already decided how he would. He thought he was writing the ending, but she'd already rewritten the script. Simone stood up and began pacing. The house felt smaller, like the walls were listening. Every framed picture mocked her, every smiling memory, now a ghost. She opened a drawer and pulled out an old notebook. The cover was soft leather, once filled with shopping lists and work notes. Now, it would serve a different purpose. On the first page, she wrote a single title, in neat, deliberate handwriting, Operation Goodbye. Underneath, she drew 2 columns. Left, evidence. Right, execution. Then, she began to list. 6 months of footage, check. Emails from projects folder, check. Bank transactions, box. Car tracker, box. Amber's workplace, box. She tapped her pen on the paper, the rhythm echoing through the quiet house. For the first time, she wasn't thinking about heartbreak. She was thinking about logistics. She wasn't grieving a husband. She was preparing a target. Her next move was simple. She needed to know everything about Amber, who she was, where she lived, what she wanted. Simone typed Amber plus Derek into Derek's email search bar. Dozens of messages popped up, some with attachments, photos. One of them stopped her breath. Amber, smiling, holding a glass of wine, sitting in Simone's kitchen. Her kitchen. Her home. The date stamp read 2 months ago, a Saturday Simone had spent at a conference. She remembered the day vividly, the one she thought he'd spent fixing the leaky sink. Her hand clenched so tightly the mouse cracked beneath her grip. The betrayal was no longer abstract. It was spatial, physical. It had invaded her walls, her air, her bed. She didn't just lose trust, she lost her home to ghosts that were still alive. Simone stared at the picture, her lips tightening. She saved the photo, then another, then all of them. Amber's face became clearer with each image, the long brown hair, the confident smirk, the way she touched Derek's chest like she owned him. But what stood out most wasn't her beauty, it was her arrogance. The kind of arrogance that believed she'd already won. Simone closed the laptop, breathing deeply, her heartbeat calm again. If Amber thought she could take what was hers, she had no idea what she'd stepped into. She whispered to herself, "You took my peace, Amber. Now I'll take yours." This wasn't jealousy anymore. It was justice, sharpened with patience. She grabbed her car keys, but stopped at the door. No, not yet. Not reckless, not emotional. Everything had to look normal. She went to the kitchen, made coffee, sat at the table and opened her planner, filling the next week with fake appointments and lunch meetings. Each fake plan was a cover. She smiled faintly. Derek thought he knew her patterns, how predictable she was. But that predictability had just become her greatest weapon. He built a routine to hide his secrets. She'd use that same routine to destroy him. That night, she cooked dinner. Derek came home whistling again, phone buzzing with unread messages, from Amber no doubt. Simone greeted him with a kiss, a soft one this time, one that felt genuine enough to hide the blade underneath. "How was your day?" she asked, serving pasta onto his plate. "Good," he said casually. "Just meetings." She smiled. "You work too hard." He laughed, oblivious, his eyes glued to his phone for a moment before tucking it away. Simone's heart didn't race this time. She was beyond that. She watched him eat, talk, move, memorizing the rhythms of his comfort. Because soon, she'd take that comfort away. He thought it was just dinner, but for Simone, it was the rehearsal for his downfall.
Arc 5. The Smile Before the Storm. For days, Simone moved through the house like a ghost wearing the skin of her former self. She laughed at Derek's jokes, poured him coffee just the way he liked, and kissed him on the cheek before he left for work. Every gesture was a performance, precise, polished, almost innocent. But inside, a storm was building, silent and deadly. He watched her across the dinner table, noticing nothing unusual. Her smiles were soft, tender, reassuring, perfectly familiar. The same smile she'd given him for years, and now each one was a calculated weapon. In her mind, Simone replayed the footage she had downloaded 1,000 times, each frame fueling the fire that burned behind her calm eyes. Amber, that woman in red, had no idea the battlefield she had stepped into. Derek, the man she had once trusted with her heart, had no idea he was standing on the edge of a trap. He even bragged to Amber in one email, "She doesn't suspect a thing." Simone read that night after Derek had fallen asleep, his breathing steady beside her. She traced her finger along the words, letting them burn into memory. He was right. She didn't suspect. Not suspect, she knew. He thought she was blind, not realizing she'd already started the countdown. The next morning, she woke early and sat at the kitchen table, coffee steaming before her. She watched Derek shuffle to the shower, humming softly, towel wrapped around his waist. It was ordinary. It was mundane. It was perfect cover. Simone took out her notebook, Operation Goodbye, flipping to the execution column. Her pen hovered over the first item, Test Amber's Awareness. She smiled faintly. Not a real smile, a predator's smile. Derek didn't see it when he leaned over to kiss her forehead. He never did. He believed in the illusion. Over the next few days, Simone observed patterns. Amber always called mid-morning, sometimes texting, sometimes emailing. Derek replied casually, never revealing the extent of his lies, never hinting at the storm that was quietly assembling in his own house. Simone began to plan her first move. It was subtle, harmless on the surface. She sent Derek an email, a fabricated business opportunity, something she knew Amber would be curious about. The subject line was, "Coffee tomorrow?" She waited. And as she had predicted, Amber replied immediately. "He said I should meet him. I can't wait." Simone read the email and smiled, not with warmth, but with precision. She wasn't jealous. She wasn't hurting. She was calculating. Every reaction from Derek, every eager response from Amber was now a piece on her chessboard. He was moving pieces on the board, but Simone had already designed the trap. That evening, dinner followed the same script. Derek laughed at his own stories. Simone nodded, smiled, poured wine, kissed his cheek. Amber's name lingered in the air like smoke, invisible, yet omnipresent. Simone's mind was elsewhere, mapping, memorizing, predicting. She made small changes around the house, subtle things Derek would notice subconsciously. A rearranged vase, a slight alteration in the living room lighting, a book left open at a page Derek would never read. He would think he was imagining it. He would think nothing. And Amber, she'd be curious, always curious. The next morning, Simone left for work earlier than usual, the nanny cam recording silently, capturing every second Derek moved through the house. She had stopped opening the app obsessively. Now she trusted the footage to tell her everything. Her phone buzzed. Amber again. "Can't wait to see him tonight. He promised me a surprise." Simone didn't reply. She didn't need to. Every text, every email, every innocent note from Derek or Amber was now ammunition. They believed she was unaware, but Simone had begun the countdown.
Days passed, weeks, each one more precise, more calculated. Simone watched, observed, documented every pattern, every routine, every secret move Derek made. Then came the night she had been waiting for. Derek had planned a late dinner with Amber, completely unaware that Simone already knew the location, the time, and the arrangement. She smiled at him as he left. "Have fun, hun." He leaned down to kiss her. "I always do." She kissed back. But as he drove away, Simone's real smile returned, the one that carried months of silent preparation, the one that would change everything. He didn't see it coming. She had been the storm all along, quietly gathering strength. Simone went to her desk and laid out the files she had collected. Emails, videos, pictures, timestamps, everything was ready. Her plan wasn't impulsive, it was methodical. Every lie he had told, every betrayal he had committed, every second of deception was now a part of her arsenal. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, she would make the first move that he could never take back.
Arc 6. The Exposure. He thought she was blind, not realizing she'd already started the countdown. Days passed after the silent preparation. Every interaction Simone had with Derek was meticulously crafted. Laughter, touches, even playful arguments, all designed to reinforce the illusion that nothing had changed. But inside, she was untouchable. Every thought, every plan, every detail of his betrayals was etched in her mind. Amber's messages, his emails, the nanny cam footage, all cataloged, all cross-referenced. Every lie he had told, every secret rendezvous, every stolen moment in their shared home had been documented. Simone spent the night before their anniversary calmly setting the stage. She had booked the most private room at an upscale restaurant downtown, a room where no one could interfere, where every detail could be controlled. Candles were arranged, a soft melody played in the background. It was ordinary, it was romantic, perfect for deception. Derek arrived carrying a bouquet of roses, the same ones he had bought every year. He kissed her cheek, whispered, "Happy anniversary, love," and led her to the table. His smile was bright, confident, unknowing. They talked, toasted, laughed. It was exactly as he would expect. He thought the night was about closeness, about love. He had no idea the truth was about to crash down on him. Simone excused herself for a moment, retrieving her phone from her clutch. She tapped the screen, selecting a file she'd rehearsed opening dozens of times. The small icon glowed innocently. She pressed play. The wall-mounted screen behind Derek flickered. Light, motion, recognition. And there it was. The nanny cam footage, the bedroom, the bed with the blue comforter, the laughter, the touch, the betrayal. Derek's face twisted, first confusion, then horror, then the realization that the life he had so carefully hidden behind lies was now broadcasted for him alone to see. The laughter in the room ceased instantly. Derek's hand froze midair. He turned to her, searching her eyes, but there was nothing to find, only the calm, unflinching resolve of a woman who had already won. Simone slid an envelope across the table. Derek's name was printed in bold letters. Inside, divorce papers. Alongside the official documents were copies of the nanny cam footage, meticulously organized, with cover letters to his law firm, his parents, and, most importantly, Amber's husband. Derek's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words emerged. The color drained from his face, leaving only the stark reality of exposure. Simone reached for her glass of wine, took a sip, and finally broke the silence. "Derek, I hope you enjoy your freedom," she said, voice calm, almost gentle. "I just hope you realize it's not the freedom you imagined." Every movement, every gesture was deliberate. He wanted liberation, to be unshackled from their marriage, and she had given it to him, but not in a way he could control, not in a way he could reclaim.
The waiter shifted uneasily, the soft clinking of cutlery now seeming incongruous against the tension radiating from the table. Simone didn't care. She had rehearsed this moment, lived this moment in her mind for weeks, and now reality matched her vision perfectly. Her phone buzzed again, Amber's name flashing on the screen. Simone ignored it. Amber would know soon enough. Everyone involved would. The web Derek had spun around himself had collapsed entirely, and Simone had been the one to pull every thread. Derek's hands shook, the bouquet of roses slipping slightly, petals scattering across the polished table. He realized then that nothing, no apology, no pleading, no bribes, could reverse what had been set in motion. Simone finished her wine, stood slowly, and looked him directly in the eyes. "This is over," she said. Her voice didn't waver. There was no malice, only absolute finality. Derek's chest rose and fell rapidly, a storm of panic and disbelief raging silently. He wanted to speak, but no words would suffice. His secrets were no longer hidden. His lies had been meticulously dismantled, each piece laid bare by the woman he thought was naive, submissive, and blind. The restaurant, previously a scene of anticipated celebration, had become a theater of reckoning. Simone's victory was silent, yet thunderous in its impact. He wanted freedom, and she gave it to him. Just not the kind he imagined. Simone left the restaurant calmly, heels clicking against the polished floor, every step measured, every movement composed. She didn't look back. There was nothing to look back on. Derek's downfall had begun, orchestrated entirely by the woman he had underestimated, the woman he had betrayed. Outside, the city light shimmered, but Simone's mind was already ahead, plotting the next moves, ensuring that every angle of exposure, every eventuality, and every loose thread of Derek's deception was accounted for. She wasn't done. This was just the beginning. The storm had arrived. And Derek had no idea how devastating it truly would be.
Arc 7. The Final Camera. That night, Simone walked out of the restaurant calm, free, almost reborn. The air outside felt different, sharper, cleaner. It wasn't just the end of a dinner, it was the end of an era, and the beginning of her peace. She didn't run, she didn't cry. She simply walked, one heel after another, clicking softly against the marble steps, as if keeping rhythm with the heartbeat of a woman who had finally taken back control. Back home, the house felt unfamiliar, hollow yet peaceful. Every wall, every photo frame, every corner whispered echoes of what had once been love, but had long since turned into performance. She stood in the doorway for a moment, scanning the living room, the kitchen, the hall, places where laughter had once lived and lies had multiplied. Then she began packing. Not in a rush, not with panic. Each fold of a shirt, each box sealed with tape was a quiet act of closure. She packed her life neatly. Not because she wanted to escape, but because she was done sharing space with ghosts. When she reached the bedroom, her hand paused on the dresser. There, hidden between a few scattered books, was the nanny cam. The tiny red eye, once the silent witness of her destruction, blinked faintly. She picked it up, turning it in her hands. For weeks, it had been her companion in silence. It had seen the truth when her eyes were blinded by love. It had given her proof when words failed. She set it gently on the bed, their bed, and whispered, almost to herself, "Thank you." A small smile crossed her face, not of satisfaction, but of liberation. Then, for the first time since it all began, she reached behind the lens and turned it off. The red light faded. The witness finally rested. Simone took one last look around. Everything she had built, everything she had lost, it was all behind her now. She grabbed her suitcase, her phone, her keys, and walked out without a single glance back. The lock clicked softly. Final. Weeks passed. Derek sat alone in what remained of their house. The laughter that once filled it had been replaced by silence and dust. The living room was bare. No furniture, no photos, no trace of warmth. Just cold walls and the echo of his own mistakes. His phone buzzed occasionally, calls from his firm he no longer worked for, from friends who no longer answered his messages.
His reputation was gone. Amber had vanished too. Her husband had made sure the world knew the truth. The once proud man sat at the dining table, surrounded by unpaid bills and empty bottles, his hair unkempt, his eyes hollow. Everything had collapsed. His job, his marriage, his finances, his dignity, all dismantled by the one woman he thought he could deceive. And every night when he tried to sleep, he saw that same small red light in his dreams, blinking, watching, reminding him. He found himself replaying that night. The restaurant, the footage, the silence in Simone's eyes. He remembered the moment his world shifted. Not when she caught him, but when she stopped caring. Because indifference, he realized too late, is more lethal than anger. Days turned to weeks. The house grew emptier. He tried selling it, but no one wanted to buy. The listing photos still carried traces of their old life, too familiar, too haunted. One evening, while cleaning what little he had left, Derek noticed a small device tucked behind the curtain. The nanny cam. The same one. The same unblinking eye. He froze, a chill crawling up his spine. He hadn't noticed it before, hadn't realized Simone left it behind. He plugged it into the wall out of instinct, as if trying to reconnect with the past. The red light flickered back to life. On the screen, the playback opened automatically, not the betrayal, not the affair, but the final moments before Simone left. She stood in the bedroom, calm, collected. She looked directly into the camera. And then she spoke. "Derek," she said, steady and cold, "I hope you finally understand. You didn't lose me because you cheated. You lost me because you thought I'd never find out. You underestimated the woman who watched you from the shadows you created." She paused. A faint smile touched her lips. "And the funny part is, even now, the camera's still rolling." The screen went black. Derek's breath hitched. He turned slowly towards the corner of the room, towards the dark lens that glowed once again. The red light blinked steadily, like a heartbeat. And he realized he didn't know if it was recording, streaming, or simply reflecting his own guilt. All he knew was that he was never truly alone again. He thought he was playing her, but the camera never stopped rolling.